Did you know that there are over 3 million social workers worldwide? It's a booming profession, one of the fastest growing everywhere. It's a tough profession. We're working with very high stakes. The well-being of tens of millions of people depend on us to help get the support that they need and through some very tough times. And I'm one of them. I'm Michael Haggstrom, doctor in counseling, and I'm a proud registered clinical social worker here in Alberta, Canada. But the thing is this, most people have no clue what a social worker really does. And let's be honest, we haven't marketed our profession very well, right? But how could we? You see, social work is such a diverse community. People of all varieties, shapes, and sizes within the community of social work. It is a complex network of people, but with a shared commonality, wanting to make a difference in their community and wanting to champion the vulnerable. Wanting to help ensure that we grow and develop as a compassionate community and to equip each individual as best as possible, to find their way to thrive. So what I want to do here today is expand our understanding into what a social worker is and bring value to the very important work we do worldwide. And I want to blow apart the stereotypes that I really think fall short of really encompassing who we are as a social work community. Now, I've had my share of working in the trenches, of witnessing firsthand the immense dedication and resilience of professionals who are able to thrive in the midst of chaos. You see, the stakes in our line of work can be incredibly high, where the health and well-being of human lives are often hanging in the balance. And in the early days of my career, I was studying and living in the south of France, and I was working in a low-income housing complex where the unemployment rate was really staggering. Not because the people were lazy, but because there was a high immigrant population that still had a lot to figure out about how to integrate into, French society and still, maintain their cultural roots. And because also, they did not have the same privilege as many others. Now imagine this, I'm at the end of my first year, and so I'm still very green in the field of social work, right? So I come into work, ready to take on my day, and suddenly, a group of about 15 men barge in and take over the facility. With large clubs, they break whatever they can find. They move each of us into separate rooms, and they declare to the city police that they have demands and that we are going to be held hostage until those demands are heard. I didn't know if we were going to survive. The men of the very families we were seeking to help locked us in. My life was threatened, and all I could think about was my wife, my children at home, and that I might not be able to say goodbye to. You see, most people are never going to understand what we as social workers are willing to do in order to help the most desperate in our communities. Now, throughout the day, throughout this ordeal, on the day especially, the number of men, they swelled to form a large mass flooding the main entrance both inside and out of our social center. There was no escape. And you know what? The police never came. Later, I found out that they had wanted to avoid a confrontation, especially because our lives could be hanging in the balance. It was late in the afternoon that suddenly the men just up and left. Now, I remember sitting in a room with barred windows alone, unsure of what was going on. Then our manager spoke up and yelled, "They're gone! Everyone out! Get into your vehicles! Allez, drive away!" I couldn't feel my legs when I stood up. I stumbled to my car and began driving away, looking around to see if anyone had a gun to shoot me down. But the swarm of men had left to go ransack the downtown. Now, I want you to hear this. I do not hate any of the men who did this. It was wrong, yes, it was even criminal. But I don't hate them. You see, when people are in a lot of pain, they may do desperate things that we don't understand. I learned this. Not every social worker is cut out to do this kind of work. And I'm going to be honest, I was not willing to risk my kids being orphaned of a father because it was obvious that my strengths also could be better used elsewhere. And that's what I love about the field of social work. It leaves you with so much latitude in the kind of work you can do. So I went on to further my education and specialize in the field of clinical counseling. You see, I love working with individuals, couples, families, where we get to dive into the deeper issues that they're struggling with. So the clinical counseling setting has been the best place for me. But looking back, I continue to have great admiration for my colleagues who went right back into the trenches, who continue to work in those challenging environments, not because they had to, but because their heart and souls needed to be there. You see, social workers are tough, sensitive, yes, but tough. And we're known for a no-nonsense approach. We're not about beating around the bush and just being nice. We call a spade a spade. We focus on real issues and tangible solutions. And my clients tell me this over and over. They say, I come here because you tell me like it is, and then you get me on the track to learn the skills needed to help change things in my life. Social workers, they are some of the most sympathetic and kind people you're ever going to meet. And we're also here to help equip people, including society, with the tools and skills necessary to become more compassionate, competent, and to be able to take on life as best we can. You know, life is hard, and it's even harder when, well, you're a vulnerable member of society. Whatever that vulnerability may mean, right? It might mean having a physical disability, some kind of mental health challenge, or maybe being a part of a minority. Whatever it is, social workers are there to champion those individuals and be an advocate for their place within the community. You see, as social workers, we understand the intricate part, the relationships between individual and the system. And this understanding is really a part of our practice, because as social workers, we're skilled at seeing what we call the actor within the system. Now, if you're a social worker, you know what I mean. And in the way that I work, when a client comes in with whatever struggle they're facing, whether it be a trauma they want to overcome, improving communication in their relationships, working through mental illness like depression or anxiety, I see them through the wide-angle lens of their whole life experiences. And this is true, I think, of all social workers, because the macro picture is important to us and helps us in getting better outcomes for our clients, where we also consider the surroundings and their relationships, and our aim is to understand what has shaped each person, both positively and negatively, what has helped to create the strengths they have, but also preventing them from thriving, including what has chipped away at their worth. I think that's why I'm so interested in doing trauma work. Our profession recognizes the widespread impact of trauma, where many in society may overlook or misunderstand it. They might even judge the person struggling with trauma. Well, as social workers, we see the reality of people's experiences. We understand that trauma is not the fault of the individual, and that everyone deserves compassion and support for what they're going through. And this trauma-informed perspective is foundational to social work everywhere. And it drives our dedication to making the difference. Social workers are often working behind the scenes. They are some of the most compassionate people you're ever going to meet, but also some of the most burned out ones. There's a resiliency, I think, that exists in social workers. You see, social workers are often really empathic, motivated by the pain that they see around them, and motivated to be a part of the change. They are defenders of diversity, defenders of those who can't have their own voice. Whether that be being an advocate for vulnerable people in the healthcare system, or helping someone go through the process of death and dying, working in refugee camps somewhere, giving support to victims of crime, or getting treatment lined up for someone struggling with addiction, to working in an administrative office well behind the scenes. You know, whatever form it is, social workers, they help keep society accountable to the ethical treatment of people as they continually wave that banner of compassion. And I'm not going to do it justice here of giving you a list of everything social workers do, but if you're a social worker or have benefited from a social worker's help, I want you to do this. Put a comment right here today. Tell us what you're about. Let's get a conversation going. I want to hear from you. Okay, great. Now, many social workers are introverts, deeply feeling and caring individuals who work quietly to make a difference. They are caring warriors, and at times might even question the impact of all they do. But you know what? You are making a difference, and that's a difference that really matters. You may never get an award an award for what you do. You may never get a lot of praise for the changes that are making a difference in people's lives. And you might even ask, well, how much of a difference am I making really? Well, because the problem is no matter what we do, right, the pain and suffering in the world, it continues. Just as we've helped one person, there's another one waiting who needs our help. And honestly, if social workers had their way, well, we would put all of the world's resources together to find better ways as a society, individually, small society, global, to help heal and change this together in much more effective ways. Because social workers are advocates for social change for the better. And for one, I am proud to be a social worker. So next time you hear that someone is a social worker, you know what? Don't turn your nose up at them and think that they are inferior because they don't have some high-paying job in a downtown office building. Instead, next time you see someone who says that they're a social worker, well, just say one thing. Say thank you. Thank you for all you do. So here's to every one of you caring warriors out there. I salute you. And I thank you for who you are and the work you do. You are making a difference. Never doubt it. We're advocates for change, one life at a time. I'm Michael Haggstrom, founder of SmartEmpath.com, and if you liked this video, you know what? Please give it a thumbs up and join the conversation by leaving a comment down below. May love and peace be with you.